Despite his historic win against Jumbo Tsuruta in 1990, Mitsuharu Misawa has yet to truly cement himself as the top wrestler in all Japan. He has consistently failed to replicate his success against Jumbo in singles action, but most damningly of all, he has yet to hold the Triple Crown Heavyweight Championship. In fact, someone else has already swooped in to end Jumbo Tsuruta's record-setting championship reign. The top gaijin in the company. The one and only Stan Hansen. The first time Misawa and Hansen met in singles action was on July 27, 1990. Misawa was fresh off his famous victory against Jumbo Tsuruta and has earned himself his first ever opportunity at the Triple Crown Championship. Originally, his opponent is meant to be Terry Gordy, but when the champion gets hospitalized, the title is vacated and Hansen gets put in his place instead. The match is now for the recently vacated Triple Crown Championship. Misawa comes hot out of the gate by attacking Hansen right at the bell. He may have gotten lucky against Jumbo, but he knows that he'll need the element of surprise against the much larger and more bullish Stan Hansen. Misawa's strategy is very simple. He goes after Hansen's arm, trying to neutralize the power of the Western Lariat. The bulk of Misawa's offense centers around working over Hansen's arm. It's not particularly bad, there's a certain level of variety to it at least, but it does become pretty one-note as Misawa focuses in on it. Misawa isn't exactly the kind of grappler that can make extended limb work like this excel, and the lack of bigger offense and bumps throughout the match does a lot to drag this down. Hansen eventually regains the advantage with his trademark roughness and stiff strikes. The two end up brawling to the outside, where Hansen even utilizes a chair to further his advantage. Now with the space to brawl and run roughshod as he excels in, Hansen remains mostly in control until the end of the match. Misawa gets in a few more glimmers of hope, but when Misawa misses a big plancha to the outside, the writing is on the wall for him. Hansen nails a vicious Western Lariat to end the match and claim the Triple Crown Championship. There's not much else to say about this match really. For the most part, the structure built around Misawa working over Hansen's arm makes this a pretty subdued affair without the same energy that makes Hansen matches work so well. When Hansen gets to work on top, it's a little better, but there's not much here. Some of the bigger bumps toward the end edge this into the realm of good, but I'd still say it's mostly skippable for the average viewer. 3 stars for me. These two would wrestle again in the block stage of the 1991 Champion Carnival. The footage I have for this match gets joined in progress, so we lose about 4.5 minutes from the start of the match. This time, Hansen gets to work the arm instead of Misawa. This doesn't last too long and doesn't really affect much in the match. They work some more spots on the mat, Hansen goes into some big bombs with a power bomb, and then there's some pretty listless brawling on the outside. There's a neat lariat off of the apron, but not much else. The finish of the match sees Misawa duck the Western Lariat and grab a crucifix hold on Hansen. Hansen counters by dropping his weight down onto Misawa, and that gets him the 3 count and the victory. I'll be straight up, this isn't average or slow to start. It's just straight up bad. It's clear that these two don't work well together. They have a very stilted chemistry and they seem to miscommunicate pretty often in the ring. There's not a lot of great work in here, even though there are a few minor bright spots that could elevate it for you. This is the worst of their matches that I'll be covering in this video, and the only thing that's worth noting from this is the finish, which will be relevant later down the line. No two ways about it, guys. This match sucks. 2.25 stars for me. Now we return to 1992, March 4th. Stan Hansen is once again the Triple Crown Heavyweight Champion after defeating Jumbo Tsuruta earlier in the year. Misawa gets another crack at the title here, and things start off well. The opening lockup is rough and aggressive. It's a good opening to set the tone for the match. Unfortunately, much like the 1991 affair, things slow way down as Misawa transitions into a chancery that goes on forever. Misawa returns to his original strategy from 1990 and goes to work on Hansen's arm, but somehow with even less urgency and energy from their first match. There's some scrappy fighting in between when Hansen transitions into control, but then even he starts to go to more mat-based stuff with his Dragon Sleeper. Most of this match plays out on the mat, and that is a choice for the worse. Neither guy is particularly great as a mat worker, so these segments drag on, even though this isn't even a long match on paper. Things really only start to pick up when Hansen nails Misawa with a DDT onto the concrete floor outside. Hansen hits a few cool bombs until Misawa is able to fight back with some clubbing elbow strikes. Misawa is able to get revenge with a DDT of his own on the floor, and things transition into a pretty fun finishing stretch. Misawa goes to the face lock that put away Jumbo the year before, but Hansen just endures long enough each time. One lariat cuts off Misawa's momentum just long enough to buy Hansen enough time to recover. A final decisive Western lariat earns him the victory to retain the title. This match is saved by the crowd's investment in Misawa and the potential hope that maybe he can finally claim the title here, but this is very much a match of two halves. One dry and lifeless, and the second decently bolstered by a hot crowd. I'd say this is just about an above average match, but not quite good either. 2 3/4 stars for me. Misawa and Hansen would meet again in the finals of the 1992 champion Carnival. Both men tore through their respective blocks in the tournament undefeated. Hansen defeated several of Misawa's contemporaries in Kawada and Kobashi and Taue as he swept the board with 9 victories in his block. Misawa, on his end, had only a single blemish in his Carnival block when he went to a time limit draw against Jumbo. Misawa comes out of the gate swinging with elbows, and Hansen is the first to drop him to the mat to try to slow things down. Misawa escapes and once again goes to work over Hansen's arm in an attempt to neutralize the Western Lariat. When Hansen fights his way out with strikes, we get some brutal exchanges from these two, which does a lot to help this match out. They're much better off trading strikes on their feet than switching holds on the mat. Misawa is still incredibly persistent in going for the arm, however, and that does slow things down. There's luckily a little more variety in how he approaches it, but not quite enough to justify how often he returns to that well. Hansen does well to sell his own arm even as he goes into his own control segment, however. Again, in the deep stretch of the match, Misawa goes to the face lock in an attempt to put away Hansen, but the champion endures just long enough to escape. Misawa feels like he's starting to gain on Hansen with a big elbow and a splash, but a lariat cuts off his momentum as it always does. Now rocked, he goes to a few roll-ups in an attempt to rush the victory, but Hansen responds by busting out a huge dropkick to extend his lead. Misawa just ducks a lariat from Hansen but gets caught with one decisive Western lariat to give Hansen the victory yet again. This match is actually pretty good and it's almost great. The strike exchanges are engaging while they last, and the mat sections are forgivable in the context of how they paid off in the finishing stretch. 3 3/4 stars for me, worth checking out if you have the time. Yet again, the old guard from the 80s continues to assert its dominance. Even as Jumbo gets phased out due to his illness, Hansen still stands tall as the gatekeeper, keeping back Misawa and his contemporaries from the very top spots in All Japan. If Misawa wants any hope of being truly the ace, he must get through Stan Hansen. Misawa has one final chance. The road has been difficult for him. He's been beloved, and the victory over Jumbo in 1990 showed that he had the ability to become All Japan's ace. But every time it seems that he's gotten close to cementing that claim, he's been pushed back. He's been pushed back down by Jumbo, he's been taken off the shelf by injury, he's been held at bay by Stan Hansen. He hasn't held gold in All Japan since vacating the World Tag Team Championships in 1991, and his attempts to win the Triple Crown Championship have ended in failure after failure. Another failure, and it seems that we might just be able to write off Misawa as just another flash in the pan. A kid who got lucky once but kept choking and could never really get the job done again. To make things even worse for Misawa, he's not coming into this match at 100%. His shoulder is injured, and Hansen knows it. Hansen is quick to target Misawa's injured shoulder, and Misawa's desperate to shut that down, elbowing Hansen to escape and then grabbing a headlock to slow things down. The exchanges between these two are violent and tense in a strong extension of their Champion Carnival final. There is still some needless mat work here as Misawa compensates for his injury by trying to ground Hansen. Hansen meanwhile fights his way out and returns to the arm work on Misawa. It's given a little more life here than in their previous matches by the added tension and heat of Hansen attacking Misawa's injury. Hansen does well to diversify his attack this time too, by adding a shoulder breaker on the outside into the guardrail. It's a great example of escalating the motifs of the series to add to the stakes of this all-important match. Misawa also uses arm work to transition into control, using it to slow down Hansen, who just keeps coming back with big strikes and power. Unlike in the past matches, Misawa can't sustain his attack on Hansen's arms, and instead has to meet Hansen blow for blow to wrest away control. Misawa starts building strength, stringing together his signature offense until a missed splash brings his momentum crashing down. Hansen nails Misawa with a powerbomb, the same move that has often signaled the end of Misawa at other points in their past. He goes to finish things off with the Western Lariat, but Misawa counters it into the crucifix hold. Once again though, Hansen drops Misawa as he did in the 1991 Champion Carnival, but this time, Hansen fails to capitalize on it. Instead, Hansen nails a shoulder breaker in the ring before locking in a cross arm breaker, and the crowd erupts. They actually buy into the potential of Misawa maybe submitting here from the damage that Hansen's done to the legitimately injured shoulder. Misawa reaches the ropes and finally nails an elbow strike, but Hansen holds strong long enough to nail one final kick until... Say it with me. Misawa's elbow is God. At last, after 2 years of struggle, Misawa has finally made it to the top. He holds the Triple Crown Championship. He is the top man in All Japan. The ace is here. Even the rowdy gaijin has to pay his respects. Misawa's stablemates Kobashi, Kikuchi, and Kawada rush the ring, proudly affixing the 3 championship belts onto Misawa's person. It is a ring filled with champions from Super Generation Army. Kikuchi and Kobashi are the All-Asia Tag Champs, and Misawa now reigns as the Triple Crown Champion. Only one man in that group has no gold to his name. This is an excellent match, the best these two ever had together. Misawa and Hansen meet expectations to put on a great match, but it isn't quite a classic. Still, this definitely ranks as something worth seeing. The moment of Misawa finally ascending to the role of ace after so long chasing it is truly satisfying, and the crowd atmosphere on this night is something else, as everyone came to Budokan Hall to see Misawa claim the throne. 4.25 stars for me. Misawa is the man. The new ace of All Japan has arrived. Despite the quality of the title switch in August of '92, it's clear to me that Hansen and Misawa just have no chemistry working together. In an attempt to understand why, I looked through Hansen's autobiography, The Last Outlaw, to see if he ever mentioned any problems he might have had working with Misawa. In general, Hansen has nothing but kind things to say about Misawa's ring work. The only clue I have as to why these matches don't work comes from Hansen's general disapproval as to where All Japan's main event style was headed in the 90s. In The Last Outlaw, he writes, "The matches became more and more like the American style with lots of sequential moves. More and more spots were laid out before the matches. The matches no longer look spontaneous and the action looks planned." This reads to me like two different philosophies of in-ring work that just never quite meshed together. Misawa was working his way towards a more meticulous and layered style of wrestling, where Hansen embodied a more chaotic, improvised, brawling style from the 80s. They were either unable or unwilling to bridge that gap, which is a shame. These two are undeniably great wrestlers individually, but together, things just never really click. But the importance of their August 1992 match cannot be understated. It marked the turning point in All Japan booking, where Misawa was now officially the man to beat. And along with him, a new crop of challengers, enemies and friends alike, would soon follow. Thank you everybody for watching, and a very huge special thank you to all my supporters on Ko-fi. So a thank you goes out to Alan Menzies, Stephen McClanahan, Perzemic, Barwick, Arch Stanton, James from Heel Turn Radio, Scott D, RV Denator, Mikey Coco, and Thelwell and Carly Cord. And a very huge thank you to my monthly Ko-fi supporters in Captain Jake Hartless, Jake Dieterich, Eddie Roberts, James Draper, Chuck Fritz, Matt Brummett, and Jacob Dickens. If you guys want to support the channel like these lovely folks, go to my Ko-fi page. The link is in the description down below. Thank you everybody so much for watching. You guys are wonderful. Thank you, and have a good one.